Okay, before we get going out in the field, I'd like to walk you through our online platform for editing and creating and managing your destinations and your routes. I'm going to go to atlas.burrow. I'm on my desktop. You'll have a login that you'll have access to. This comes with your autonomy. So whoever is the site manager and is trained on Burrow, kind of your person of contact or your point person, they'll have access to this. They can edit and clean things up. Our team prides himself in getting growers going with the initial setup. But beyond that, this is all stuff that you can edit. So I'm going to go to your site, UPG Growers. Actually, one thing that I want to touch on real quick, you don't see a drone map here. I make comment of it in our video as well out in the field. But it looks like Burrow's getting really close to this building. It looks like it's actually driving through this hoop here. One method to clean that up, because your map on Google or on Bing or whatever layer we're using is not accurate to where Burrow thinks it is in the world. So we come through and we add a drone map. You don't have to have a drone map. This is just very, very useful for if you're drawing your routes out. So the drone map, you're very precise, and you can see that right over here that the line that Burrow is taking, you're very confident that it's not running into buildings. So drone maps are really good for seeing maybe drainage areas or corners of buildings, just making sure that you're really accurate. So in your case, for what we're doing today, you don't have a drone map, it's not the end of the world. So we'll walk you through this. Over here on the left, we have a suite of tools. We can draw lines or paths. We can edit points. I click into here, I can see all of my points that I could edit. I can cut my lines, so if I want to add, let's say I add an intersection, I can cut it to add to it. And then I can go remove points if something is just kind of out of whack. And also I can add destinations. So right here, let's say I'm going to add this hoop. I'm just going to call it 2A, or actually 1A. I think my other one up here is hoop A. You can click on that, hoop 1, and then hoop 1A. You'll have your naming system match your existing naming system. So whatever you draw and add, it's gonna match. There's a few other tools down here. We don't need to get into those, but the point is that you can get in here and you can edit and create your routes. A couple of neat things: you can get fancy and you can do turnout areas. If this is my common path, this right here is going to be a little bit of a turnout right in front of the hoop that's right over here. The other thing is you can change and designate the speed, not only the direction but also the speed. So right here, this is your downhill. I'm going to change this to, I think about 0.5 is a little bit over a mile per hour. We're having our team change this from meters per second to miles per hour. At the moment, it at least shows you what the miles per hour is. So I'm going to save that, and now this downhill, Burrow is always going to slow for that downhill. If you're towing at or above capacity, you're going to want to make sure that downhill is safely traversed, and that Burrow knows exactly what it's doing when it's going down that hill. Slow down and just take that hill nice and easy. And save my pending changes, and so now when I come back and I click on this, it's still at that 0.5 meter per second, or just over a hair over a mile per hour. The other thing that we can do is if I only want certain areas to be one way or two way, I can click on that route and change that from one way to two way. This is really, really important when you get into tight scenarios, especially even with somewhere like here. I don't think that you're going to have enough room to run two burrows side by side, kind of like on a roadway. You've got traffic going one way, and then your left-hand traffic's coming the other way. So in some of the scenarios like this, you're going to set this up kind of like a downtown one-way system, where you're kind of have this racetrack maybe around the outside, and then you just kind of have these routes that are going crisscrossing, going opposite directions. And then Burrow will make its way to wherever it needs to go, and it knows when to hop off and when to hop on to the routes that it needs to go on. So I'm going to cancel that change, and really that is the bulk of this. The key here is that counter to others in the space, really only one other company in the space that's dedicated to indoor application. This requires no buried wire. This requires no prep or change to your site. And this is a one-time deal. You can set it up and you can keep that route forever. You can also come in and change it. If you expand your facility and you need to add routes to it, you guys have the power and the tools to do that. This is where we're at today, and we have a bunch of other tools that are going to come into play here. So just stay posted, and we'll keep you guys up to date on what those changes are. Okay, so now we're here. We've looked through how you create the route, how you build your destinations, you match everything up to your naming structure, what your greenhouses are named, the entry points, the stop points, the speed of each area. If you're coming out of a planting line and you need to go through a watering line, you can change that speed, and then on your straightaways you can also change that speed. So also up in the corner you'll probably see, or you'll see a video of kind of an overlay of what I'm doing here on the screen. So as I interact with Burrow, you'll be able to see that as well. Okay, so I'm going to start in the upper right and kind of move my way across to the left to kind of describe what your user is going to see. They're going to see the settings. You can come in here, change the speed, you can turn your lights off and on. The loops, cycle routes, load maps, those are a part of one of our other UIs. So some of these items, they're not going to be relevant to you, but they're still there. And then probably the key thing for your group and most of the growers is that we have this setting right here where we can change from English to Spanish. So when you change that, you go back to the UI, you can see that everything is in Spanish. If I go to look at routes, all of my information and instruction that the UI gives to the customer, that is all in Spanish. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the settings, change it back to English for our sake, and then we'll go ahead and continue going through that. If there's an issue, there will be times where you're going to throw something at Burrow that it's never seen, or Burrow might misbehave at some point. In that case, there's a way for the user to report that issue for our team to be able to improve on. So just a reminder, this thing has cell on board. All the data that comes off of Burrow, you're going to be able to see it, 1 on Formant and 2 on Atlas. So Formant is used for all of Burrow's mileage, battery tracking, where Burrow is on your site, you can see it there, as well as what the cameras are seeing. There's more in that than you're ever going to need, but that's where you're going to go for your fleet management, and if you want to see any of the details on how your burrows are performing. Okay, then you have battery health, you have GPS health as well. We have a map error because my GPS is not connected. I will do that real quick, bear with me. Relaunch that in-trip. While that does that, we're going to come over here to the next thing past this red map error. See, now my status went to ready, it went to lost. Briefly it'll come back, but I'm going to go to person follow. So in person follow, you see that dashed line. As soon as the user gets up and kind of moves, it turns green. That means that Burrow's ready to follow. This is for times when the users may be away from the route, they want to move somewhere different, maybe take something from point A to point B that, hey, I never created a route for that, but I still want to just move stuff around. You can use person follow. If you need to move Burrow out of the way, and we'll show you an example of that in a minute, you can use that as well. If you press the reverse button as well, you can walk back towards Burrow and it'll push it away. As soon as you're done backing it up, say you back it in to park it somewhere, you can move away from it again and it will then follow you again. Okay, so I'm going to stop this. I'm going to turn person follow off. Then I'm going to go into manual mode, and you have 4 directional movement: up, down, left, right. Okay, that's for your smaller, more incremental moves. If you're going to use, let's say on the back of the burrow, you've backed Burrow up to a trailer, you're going to connect it, but Burrow's just not quite where it needs to be relative to the tongue of that trailer. You can also use the yellow box on the front and the back. There's a forward and a reverse button that works in just the same way. It's real convenient because it's right next to the user in the back, right where they're hooking up. Okay, so now we get into the good stuff, right? So my status is ready. My GPS is green. It's ready to go. And I'm gonna go into my autonomy. So let's start creating a route. We have a bunch of destinations we set up in Atlas. You'll see how they show up here in the UI. And let's go take Burrow from where it's at now and find a destination to send it to. So when you click create a route, you have three options. You can search for the route, type it in. You can pick it from a list. You can also pin that destination, and now it will stay up at the top of that list. If you go to that list, let's say it's a common location like a planting line or a charging station, or where you're sending Burrow back to charge, it'll remain up at the top of the list as a common item that you're going to use all the time. So see, I go in there and it's already pinned. It's ready to get to. The other one that's really neat is you can go into the map setting and you can see your whole site. Now, keep in mind that this is an overlay from, say, Google or Bing. So we're going to zoom in and it's not going to look right. It's going to look like routes are running through buildings. We can do drone mapping for you, so that map is precise and it relates to the routes nice and clean. So as I zoom in, I see each of these destinations that we created. We are down here. You see that blue dot in the middle? That's where Burrow is located right now. And then I'm gonna say let's pick Hoop 2. Actually, let's pick Hoop 1. We're gonna go to Hoop 1. I'm gonna confirm that destination. Once I've confirmed it, I'm ready to go. All I'd have to do is press start. I'm gonna go back to the map and I'm gonna add one more location. I'm gonna add, let's say, Hoop 4 South, okay? So now it's gonna make this loop around. For the sake of this demo, I've made all of these routes two-way, so Burrow can go in any direction on any of these routes. Real convenient for this purpose. In the case of this site, some of these avenues are quite a bit narrower, so I'd say probably make them one directional and treat it like a downtown roadway. Confirm destination. Now I have two locations. All right, so now let's press start. Let's let it run. All right, so you heard that audible chime. Burrow's got a number of audio cues. One is for locations, one is when it starts. There's the clicking noise as it's running, but Burrow has made it to its destination and it's now ready to be unloaded. Once it has been unloaded or loaded, whichever you're doing at this point, now we can go back to the user interface and we've got that next destination to run. Okay, so if I want to change the destination, let's say I don't want to go to that location, I want to go to a different one, I can do that as well. I'll simulate that here in a few minutes. So now we're there, we've loaded up or unloaded, and now we're going to just come down here. We want to go to the next destination, so we're just going to press that button again. And you hear that audible chime again, and away Burrow goes. So in terms of safety, we've got a couple of things that we can talk through. We have cameras on the front, cameras on the back. Those are used for obstacle detection. Beyond that, we have this right here. It's called LiDAR, and LiDAR is also used for that. LiDAR can see roughly 40 meters out. It's not necessarily acting on anything though until you get a little bit closer to it. So I'm going to go out in front, and you'll see how Burrow will initially slow and then eventually stop for me. So as it gets closer, first it's going to slow and then it's going to stop. So that's the same for a person as it is for, let's say, a tractor or trailer or any other obstacle that's in its way. Guys tend to use cones quite a bit if they've got long distances between points, and let's say they're working between those 2 points. You don't want to create a million destinations, but you do want burrow to stop at the area you're working. If you're inside that greenhouse, you want it to stop. All right, so I'll fast forward this video up again, and we'll walk through a scenario where burrow will stop for a cone. We're kind of assuming that cone is a trailer. Victor asked, how do I get burrow around a trailer if it stops for, let's say, a guy's out spraying in the avenue and burrows runs up against them, and you need to get it around so it's not just stuck. So I'll show you that here in a second. Okay, so burrow saw an obstacle a little bit close. I have my trailer width set pretty wide, so it thinks that this obstacle, it's going to run into a trailer. So in this case, we don't have a trailer on it. I can push it through. I'm just going to push the clear button, just push it through that. Do it one more time if I need to. Nope, we're good to go. All right, so burrows approached this spray trailer, we're gonna call it. Cone's acting as a spray trailer. How do we get it shaken loose? How do we get it past? So what we're gonna do here is come into the person follow. I'm gonna click that person follow, and since we're really close to it, I'm actually gonna help it out and turn it a little bit so it doesn't see that thing as an obstacle anymore. Then I'm going to clear that obstacle. It says ready, we're good to go. And then I'm just gonna move burrow in the trailer around the obstacle and bring it close to back on that, let's call it a digital train track, your route. And then once I get out of person follow, I'm gonna go back into autonomy. And we still wanna go to hoop 4. So I'm just gonna press start. You hear the chime again, and then here burrow goes, it's back on its way. It's pretty simple to get burrow out from where it was at. Okay, so now, let's say that we have already unloaded everything. We unloaded everything at that first location, and we no longer need to stop at hoop 4. What I can do is I can come hit the stop button, stops burrow. I'm gonna come back up to the user interface, and I am going to change this. I'm gonna go edit my routes. I no longer need this hoop 4. I'm gonna click delete. And now I'm gonna add another destination. So on my map, I don't have the route all the way back to your facility. Victor was saying that that's something of interest to you guys, and we can talk more about that. But what I do is this destination right here called go to greenhouse. So I'm gonna confirm that destination. I'm gonna add that. It got rid of the stuff that we've already achieved. So you don't need to see those anymore, but you do see the go to greenhouse. All right, so once we've got the go to greenhouse selected, all we gotta do is press start, and then burrow's gonna just make its way back. We've changed that destination from the one that we no longer needed to stop to. We could have done that all the way back at that last destination as well. It would have worked just the same. Okay, so now that we've seen burrow run and we've kind of walked through what destination-based routes are, how to use them, I want to talk through a little bit of what's different from this unit that I have today at the demo versus what's coming your way for a production unit. We'll talk through a few safety items that I didn't quite touch on yet, and then we'll also touch on the remote control that we have available as an add option. Okay, so in terms of what's different between this unit and production model, we have moved this screen up into this position here. When a user's in manual mode, you really don't want to be leaning down and have your forehead in a place where you're gonna bang it on here. So we moved it up here. It's close to eye level. You have a hand on things, so you're connected to burrow as you're using the controls. It makes it really easy, really convenient. This plate right here houses the GPS, our safety beacon, and the radio. These cables we really needed to conceal, so there's a nice plate that houses all of that. You have a few added stickers for safety signage. And then beyond that, coming around the back, this hitch is pretty low in this model. It comes up pretty high. and is in a really nice spot. So that hitch, it's a 2-inch sleeve, just like you have in your pickup truck. Anything that you guys use in a pickup truck, you can use on burro. I think you guys are using pintle hitches here. No problem there. Then in terms of safety, we touched on the LiDAR. We also touched on the cameras. Beyond that, at the front and the back of burro, you have a safety stop button and you have a bumper bar. So let's say somebody just jumps in front of burro real quick, it's gonna hit this bumper bar and stop. If they wanna stop it, let's say they have it on a route and it's running, so they walk in front of it to stop it. They don't want it to continue when they move. They'll hit this stop button, or they'll hit the bumper bar. Either one effectively does the same thing and stops burro from moving. Once they're ready to go, they just press the start button again. Okay, beyond that, I'll also click to or link to our remote control video. Charlie walks through what the remote control is, how it's used, and basically it just has your 4-way movement. And then there are 4 other buttons that are configurable. We've got a few different concepts and ideas of how to use that. One, really interested in your feedback, would be a trailer advance button. So let's say burro approaches your potting line, it's loaded up, the first trailer is loaded up, and then you need to advance that. Well, you don't necessarily want to walk around in front of burro, put it in person follow, walk it forward, stop person follow, walk back and load it back up. Instead, with that remote, in theory, the idea is that you're going to click that advanced trailer. You'll have the dimension of the trailer already in the burro. You'll tell it how far it needs to advance when you click that button. Once it's clicked, burro moves forward that trailer distance, and now your person loading the trailers doesn't have to move. And then they just take that remote when they're done, they slap it to the trailer. It's magnetic, so just stick to it and then send it on its way. And that remote also has a go button that'll just get it going. Beyond that, I think that pretty well covers it up. Actually, there is one more thing. We talked about the safety aspect of LiDAR. When you go indoors, you have the ability to create an indoor route using LiDAR. We go inside, we lose visibility with GPS, so we rely on LiDAR. Now, we can talk through more of that, but all we really need to talk about right now is that with LiDAR, this burro has the ability to navigate autonomously on all your outdoor routes and all your indoor routes. Other than that, I think that's about it. Again, apologize for the delay yesterday and the need to bump this. I hope this helped and I hope this answered your questions. Let's connect hopefully soon and go from there. Thanks again.